Welcome, welcome. This is the Live, Love, Laugh, and Let Go Out Loud. I am super happy because I've got a Montanan that I'm going to interview today. It's just my backyard here. I am super excited to bring this next guest here. So hold on, I'll bring him up right after this introduction. Welcome to the stage, Andrew McKean. I'm so excited to have you here. I just picked that music for you, the man of mystery, the one that's always on the go.
I feel like I need to have some sort of a cape or maybe a fedora on to really amplify that mystery. I'm not very mysterious.
Oh my God. You guys, you don't understand. I've always had this little part-time job, and then through COVID I didn't. But I met him through my working at the hotel. This guy comes in and out, and he goes all over the place. And it's just an honor to actually have that world collide to this world. And hopefully I'll see him soon here in Montana. But all I got to say is this guy is one that I just love because he's just got a smile on his face. He's just caring, giving. I love him so much. I'm just excited to have you here because I've made a lot of online friends, right? And I'm global and all this stuff, but when you actually have somebody that knew you before you were doing this, come on, it's just kind of cool. That's all I gotta say. And you're a podcaster, and you do all sorts of stuff. So tell everybody a little bit about you, and then I'm going to go into some questions that they'll get to know more about you.
Okay, awesome. We have so much to talk about. So first, but even before I talk about myself, I have to talk about you because this is a really cool confluence of things. So I knew Lynn way back when, I guess you would say.
10 years ago, actually.
Right. And as she just alluded, to me, this is actually one of the great, charitable things of life. You meet people in the course of life and you're you have a connection with them, but they're fleeting. And there was always something about Lynn. So I used to come through and travel all the time around the world, as that introduction indicated, often in pursuit of animals and in outdoor adventure. But Lynn was just one of these people. There was just an instant connection right from the beginning. And I always look forward to seeing you, that bright, beaming face and just sunshining personality. And just anyway, so that's you and me, and more about me. So yeah, I am a world traveling writer and journalist covering the outdoors. Oh, look at that. You've got
check this out, everybody. Keep talking about you. Move over to the side and keep talking about you.
Okay, it's perfect.
The other way.
I don't talk about myself very often. One of the characters, kind of personality traits of being a journalist is I am so much more comfortable telling other people's stories than my own. But part of the great kind of just charity of my life has been the ability to meet people, travel the world, often behind a gun or a bow, hunting the animals that I absolutely love. And, it's one of the things I'm eager to talk to you about on the show is how can you possibly be a hunter and kill animals that you love almost as much as people in some cases. And I'm eager to talk a little bit more about that. But that's been my job. It's been what's taken me around the world. And I love telling, as I said, other people's stories, and especially introducing people to the outdoors, talking about sort of the health and benefits and just sort of wonderment of the outdoor world. So that's me. I do live in Montana. I've driven.
Don't tell anybody. He lives in a cool place. We'll just leave it at that.
290 miles northeast of Billings in this little town called Glasgow, Montana. I can almost see Canada from here. I can almost see North Dakota from here. It's this forgotten wonderland of rural America. Anyway.
Don't tell anybody. Shh.
I know. So let's get our town is officially defined as the middle of nowhere because it is the it's the farthest town in America from population center of 100,000 or more. So this is it.
Wow.
This is the middle of nowhere.
I love it. Okay, so what things have you let go out loud? Because people don't understand that in order to live, love, and laugh, you got to let go of things.
Hmm.
So what have been things that you've let go to be able to live, love, and laugh?
Well, I mean, really, and I don't know if you ever knew this, Lynn, but often when I was traveling through Billings, I was actually going to New York City, where my office was. So I was the editor in chief of a magazine called Outdoor Life, which is one of the longest lived and most influential outdoor magazines in America. And one of the things I let go of is I came to this little town like 25 years ago to raise my kids, and I came here for a job. But then I got these other opportunities, including this job in New York City. So one of the things I had to live, love, and leave, I guess, is I tried to do it and did do it from the loneliest town in America. So I would travel constantly to New York City from little rural
We
Montana
talked
town.
about that too from New York because I was
We
from New
did.
York, so
That's right. So,
which is
but it was just so cool because it was really important to me to keep my family and my kids growing up in a little town. And I think we did it. I actually just last week graduated my daughter. She just graduated from high school. That was my last one. And so mission accomplished, I guess. I have got three awesome kids, awesome for a lot of reasons, but partly because they grew up in what I call a real community of people who care and know and look out for you when you're in that community. And that's been a wonderful thing.
well, it's funny because you were one of many people that inspired me with my title of my book, Long Story Short Ride, because, instead of telling you to put your seatbelt on, I'd say I got my license from New York and everybody whipped their seatbelt in and say, how'd you get here from New York? So I'd say long story short ride. And then, so that book was made last year. But anyhow, so other than me, what makes you laugh?
Oh, what makes me laugh? You know, everything. I mean, my wife makes me laugh. I think you've met her one time, Lynn. She's the funniest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
Anyway, my kids make me laugh. Sort of situational comedies make me laugh. And I don't mean like of the television variety, just life makes me laugh.
Okay.
My neighbors make me laugh. I don't know. Life's funny.
Well, then this will make you laugh then too. Ready for this question? You got to pay attention.
All right.
So, have you ever gotten yourself in a pickle? What kind of pickle would you say you got yourself into? That you learned the most valuable lesson ever.
What has just happened? is that a dull pickle?
Yeah. Whatever kind of pickle you want to talk about. Dude, that's all, relish.
Bread and butter? All right, I'm going to tell you about a pickle. I just alluded to this, and I can't let it go anymore. So I've been training for a marathon. I've grown up running. I ran in college, high school, and college, and I've taken my sort of love of running to even the Glasgow Scotties, which is our high school team. So I'm the cross country and the track coach here. Nobody really loves to run long distance. I think
I did because the runner's high.
Right.
And the fact that you say, I want to stop right here. I was telling this somebody the other day, I want to stop right here, but your mind says, but you can go further. And you can.
Actually, one of the most interesting sort of coaching, and I think maybe even just sort of convictional things I've ever done in my life is trying to tell a middle school girl, you can run, you can hurt, you can make yourself, you can push yourself.
Yes.
In a population of people really who are sort of disbelieving of their own abilities, or middle schoolers, and to be able to convince them like there is actually benefit from doing this is one of the great kind of successes of my life. Anyway, I've been training for this marathon. It's in Duluth, Minnesota in 2 weeks, and started to step up the mileage, was doing great when all of a sudden I felt this hip pain I'd never felt before. I couldn't figure out what in the world is going on with it. If you're a distance runner, you kind of endure things a lot. That just goes with the territory. And it's been something that I've always kind of relished too, is, high pain tolerance, the ability to kind of push through discomfort. But this one was just not going away. So after lots of inquiry and lots of diagnosis, I've got a fractured hip. So the bone in my upper hip is got a stress fracture. So I can't run. So one of the things, so the last probably month, I've just not been able to run for probably the first time.
This has to do being in a pickle, right?
Yeah, this is my pickle.
Okay. Okay.
This is my pickle.
Okay.
So what I realize is, oh man, do I miss running? And I cannot wait. So I've been the best patient you can imagine. I'm actually on crutches trying to keep weight off of it. But this is a pickle for me, and a brand new pickle. I call it not sweet.
It's funny. I produce a show, and Debbie Find It. She had this world class. He's a orthopedic. He does knees, hips, shoulders, whatever. I said, all I want to do when I get my bionic knees is I want to go running. You think I could get away with that? He goes, no, Lynn. Like, so I'm not too hurried to get knee replacement because I can't go running. That's not cool. So I get that. So you're in a pickle because what you want to do, you can't do right now.
But, it's also the kind of thing where, again, like I talked about, that messaging to a middle school runner about you can do it. So I'm actually having to take my own medicine right here, because what my bone doc said is, hey, it happens. It's the runner's dilemma. You get these like chronic injuries. And what he said is, you got to stay off of it for 6 weeks. It should heal and you'll be able to run. If you are a bad patient and you do not stay off of it and you displace it or turn, kind of misalign it, then we're looking at hip surgery and you will never run again. So I've got that very thing you're looking at with knee replacement. Either I'm a good patient and I take care of things and I get back in the saddle, or I ignore advice. I'm a bad patient and I'm in a real pickle.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm doing that with my health now. I'm figuring out the new normal / I love health and fitness, and I'm going to find some damn way to get over the crap I'm going through. But yeah, it's humbling experience when you got to practice what you preach.
And, I think, I know this has been the case with you. It certainly is the case with me. You feel invincible for so long.
Yeah.
You start to kind of wear that like clothes, like this cloak of invincibility, I guess. And to have that like change, like all of a sudden I'm like, I think I'm older than I think I am. It's like, wait, what happened there? And to actually have to reduce and change your lifestyle a little bit to accommodate these changes, that's hard.
Well, okay, we'll do a podcast some other day on that. I think it would be a great topic. Absolutely. So what do you love in your life other than your family and running?
I love the wild world. I
love it.
Work to defend it. I work to protect it. And I think it's one of the things that we have taken for granted, whether it's clean water and clean air or open spaces. Those things don't happen by accident. They take people who advocate for them. And I love them so much. I tend to advocate for animals in places that don't have advocates. I love
that. I love that. And so can you recall a time in your life when you said, I'd never do, that you ended up doing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, geez, which one can I pick? So, yeah, well, yeah, it's funny. I said I would never do television ever, because people who were, you mentioned,
YouTube is on television, right? And this is on YouTube. Just saying.
There's this thing, and I'm sure people have seen it or riffed through it. In the old days when we had cable television and everybody was, cabled, the outdoor channels and like the outdoor hunting shows.
Yes,
my wife actually calls it the whisper channel, because it's a lot of pasty white guys whispering to each other about the animals that are right outside their ground.
The bass I remember the most.
The whisper channel. So one of the things I said, I was never going to do that, because I hated it. It looked like very ego driven, like, look at me, not the animals or the places that we are. Anyway, I end up doing a lot of television and YouTube these days. So that's something that I'd never do.
Right? I love it. You see, so it goes to show you, be careful what you judge, predict, or perceive, because in time things do change. And that's my purpose of this, is to show people that we're humble to share these things out loud and to be able to live and love and laugh about it, right?
There you go. Here's another one. I also said I would never be on crutches, and look at me, I'm on crutches.
Yeah, that's why I said be careful, people. It's true. It's very cool. It's very true. And that's why I tell people to be kind to other people, because what you're wishing on them is your own medicine. And I I can't emphasize that enough. But when I have other people that can witness or attest this, maybe I'll get through to people. So just saying.
I think you're right. That the whole idea of, I mean, it's the golden rule really in exercise or in practice of,
Mhm.
you know, treat people like you want to be treated.
Yeah. And
I think
that
we
really
lost
is,
sight of that.
yeah. What meaning does living your best life have to you for you personally?
So that's a great question. I think so many self images, whether of ourselves, are based on other people's perception of us, right? It's that kind of external recognition.
Right.
And to me, the best life is something that's like, it doesn't, it's not projected from the outside. It kind of emanates from inside, like self-satisfaction, just sort of happiness. And I would call it just bliss. And to me, like, it's almost, it's a behavioral compass. I'm not even going to call it a moral compass because that implies all kinds of things, but how you behave in the world, how you live your life in the world is, to me, living your best life. Your relationships with people, your family and neighbors, your community, that makes me happy.
You know, I love you said that because I let's see. Did I have time for that? Let's see. Well, I'll go to that here in a minute. And 1 second here. I have a delay reaction. I'll ask you this question too, real quick. So, what makes a beautiful person to you?
Somebody who I think has that inner light, who has that self-confidence and satisfaction that they are living their best life. That just radiates outward, and that's beautiful to me.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to share this here real quick because outward appearance, this is going to be like for me watching this the first time too. So here we go.
All right.
I've known Andrew McKean for over 25 years, and he's one of my favorite people. You know, we've been work colleagues and friends, and the thing that is so great about Andrew is that there's so many layers to his personality and to his skill set. He's obviously a tremendously gifted writer. He has a beautiful way with the language. He's a thoughtful reader and, just a guy who kind of really thinks things through in a way that I just really appreciate. Consummate outdoorsman, just one of the most accomplished hunters of our era, and just an all-around great guy. He's worked for me. I've been his boss. He's been my boss. We've been kind of, co-equals at Outdoor Life. And honestly, my journey would be a lot poorer if it wasn't for Andrew McKean.
Thank you, John. That came in at the 11th hour, and I thought you probably heard something going on. Like,
oh, that's great.
But thank you, John, for doing that.
I'm so tempted to say I don't know who that is. Never met that man before in my life.
Well, that's why I put his name on there while we were talking. I'm like, I got to work on this.
Oh, that's great. No, John,
you've probably never seen my shows before, but I'm known to do this. So there you go.
That's a great addition. I love that. John is one of my very favorite people and one of my best and oldest friends.
And I didn't know him. I'm like, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm going like, I gotta find one person. I had a little backup video of me just in case. I had to have something there. So, John, thank you so much for. What's that?
You're a magician.
Thank you. I love what I do. I builded the craft here, man. I set the standards on podcasts and what to do to make a guest feel special. So, anyways. What's the first thing you notice about a person?
Their hands.
Their hands, okay. Where they give you a firm handshake?
I mean, I'm kind of being facetious a little bit, but hands do tell you a lot about it. Whether it's a handshake or whether it's like what they do with their hands, they keep in their pockets. Are they expressive? Hands are such an interesting, like, leading indicator of people. Are they knurled? Are they calloused? Are they like, yeah. So hands.
Makes me say, hi, Andrew.
Right? Yeah.
I love it. I love it. This is awesome. Okay, I will go with that. What mistakes have you made along the way? And we only got about another 20 minutes.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I could take the balance of the show with this. Oh, I've made so many mistakes along the way. I mean, I think one huge mistake that I recognized sort of later in life is not having self-confidence when I needed it. The self-confidence I have is kind of a later recognition. And early on, like I think I took jobs because I didn't think I was either qualified or competent enough to take the job I really wanted, so I settled. So I would say that's mostly those mistakes I recognize in retrospect, that every decision that you come to, whether it's personal or professional or logistical, leads to another crossroads, right? That's one of the great things about life is I've always loved history, whether it's personal history or political history, is to sort of autopsy decisions and go back to points of origin, because every life has got so many of those crossroads where you turn left or you turn right, or which way do you go? And anyway, I look back on some of those crossroads I was at that could have gone one way or another. And I think it's a human trait to say, if only I had, right? And that can either be like regretful, oh, if only I had gone this way when I had the chance. I don't believe those. I don't have any regret about them, but I do sometimes look back on, if I'd had the confidence and conviction of my own abilities to go this way, how my life would have turned out. I'm very happy with the way my life has turned out. But I do think those are, whether they're mistakes or just sort of reconsiderations of your path, I think they're healthy things to do. Like, how did you get to where you are? I think it's a really interesting thing to ask.
Yeah. And I got to say, though, really, it was just the way it was meant to be, because that's humbled you to be a super nice guy. And I was talking to you earlier, being a former athlete and looking morbidly obese with the health condition I had that I didn't know I had. And yet you didn't treat me any other way. You actually saw me for who I am. And I'm not going to get teary-eyed, but I'm saying I'm thankful for that, because I've always felt like I had to defend that I am somebody to some people, because we are judgmental people as a human, unless they know your background. And my friends are like, yeah, but Lynn, you've accomplished and blah, blah, blah. People that know you and grown with you, they know and accept it. But we're talking about strangers and things like that, and you've seen people to see them. And I am an introvert, and yet I can call another one out that feels the way I have. And that's what I'm saying. But we do what we do because we want to help the world because there's many of us that feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so it takes, and I guarantee there's people that have inspired you to come out of your shell, to do the things you did, right?
Right. Well, remember earlier on, I said, my comfort level is to tell other people's stories. Right. I am an introvert. I would much prefer to I mean, that's part of, I think, one of the graces of journalism is like you have an ear for other people's words and narrative arcs. I love that. And so I'm always uncomfortable when I'm the leading person. I mentioned that about television. I don't want to be in front. I want to be behind the camera or behind the notebook.
Thank you for saying that, because I've always been the producer and the stage person, and I love being there. And people are like, but Lynn, I couldn't do what you do. I can't do what I can do, but I do it. Matter of fact, I got honored the other day, and people were giving me compliments. That was very hard to take. Let me tell you, I know how it feels now. You're like, I understand that. But I got to say this. It's the thing that people don't understand. All my shows, I have co-hosts so that I can spotlight them. So there's a way of being out there, but not being out there. And I know for all the introverts and for how I felt for many things, I feel like I have to be that voice, and you are that voice. But I know that at nighttime and certain times of the day, we need our space. We need to introvert. We need to be whole, we just need to be back. And so to find another introvert and to know, and people, you see, that's what I love. People need to see that we can shine our light and we can go, we don't have to give it all away. We can introvert and we can just be ourselves. But the world needs our light just as much as they need somebody that's an extrovert.
That's interesting. I think one of the things I notice about living in a small town, so Glasgow is about 3,500 people.
Until today's thing, when this is global now, you're going to make that place. And I didn't do it, everybody. You did it. Go ahead.
That's right. You let them come. It's a good winner will always get. They won't stay.
I know, they come up to Billings. They come up to Billings.
Anyway, being in a small town, I think you recognize people, you know people, people know you. And in some ways, like multi-generational small towns and communities, I think can be limiting in some ways for like introverts and people who just want to hide and get away from that, because people not only know who you are and where you live and who your kids are, but they also know your grandparents, and they judge you based on people who are ghosts. They don't even live in this world anymore. And so I actually love that about small towns, because that sort of that social membrane is thin. But I also think I think it's missing from a lot of America, where you can be yourself. Well, let me back into that a little bit. In so much of America, and an anonymity of whether it's social media or whether it's COVID really brought this to the fore, of people who could hide in plain sight. And I think in some ways that's dangerous for our sense of belonging to a community.
Mhm.
So one of the things that's really important to me is belonging to a community that you make. The nice thing about living in a little town is it's a built-in community. You can be whatever you want in that community, but I also love reaching out into the wider world. And I think that's one of the things that you and I connected over, is this ability to have a community of strangers. Like there's something about you that attracted me
You too.
right away. And it's
We
look
were
what
best buddies.
later. Yeah.
And we don't have to talk, though. That's what people don't understand. We don't have to talk to just hang out. We'd be in the car. We didn't have to talk,
That's right.
because I'd take you to the airport. We just be in.
Anyway.
It's awesome. I just love that. And that's what people got to understand. So thank you, because people sometimes go, but Lynn, I can't be you. And they don't understand. It takes a lot of energy to come out and be yourself out to people. But it's okay. It's good too. It's a good feeling to do that and give that to the world. They need that. They just need that. So thanks for being here and explaining that the best way you could.
I'm a little garbled, but yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah. So what is your big, hairy, audacious goals now?
Oh man.
Gee, you were the editor-in-chief of the biggest outdoor, it's just so cool. I mean, look at that. Look at that.
There you go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Great book, by the way. It's big old coffee table book. If you want to know anything about the outdoors, there you go.
There you go.
Big, audacious, hairy goals. So it actually goes back to telling stories. And I think one of the things I do, so I'm a freelance journalist now. I get paid by the piece. I'm kind of a gig worker with words, I guess you would say. And if you're in that, it's easy to tell small stories because that keeps the cash flow going, right? Like,
Right.
I'm going to do this story and I'm going to get paid for it. I'm going to move to the next one. And you're kind of on this hamster wheel. What I noticed now that I've been doing it for a couple of years is the pace of it doesn't allow you to take the time to tell the big, ambitious stories. So my big, audacious, hairy goal is to tell a big, either book length story or like big national magazine, National Geographic, The Atlantic, The New Yorker, those big sort of serious periodicals that really that take journalism and deeply reported stories really seriously. That's my goal, is to write at that level.
Are you doing your personal blogs online too?
Not really. And then part of it
Oh.
is like, it's a little bit of that reluctance to be about me and the pronoun I. I want to tell you and them and other people.
Oh, well, you're talking to a marketing consulting expert here. We're going to talk offline, because people need to, when you have the gift of telling stories and the places you've been and things like that, I think I changed your mind by telling you this. You need to tell these stories in a blog or in a book for your kids' sakes. And so it's not about you, but it's about your kids. That's why I do these videos too, because video will last longer than you and I, and we'll have these memories to share for generations to come. So I'm changing your thought right now and having you realize that it's about you telling stories to your grandkids and your grandkids. So I just changed your world, buddy, and we're going to talk about that.
You see a pickle.
I love you so much. So we're going to be done here in about 10 more minutes. But what's your favorite quote?
Oh, my favorite quote. It's funny. I deal in words so much. I should have this sort of ready-made, but I really don't. One of my favorite quotes actually is, you're never going to see it written down anywhere, because it was told to me by an old timer when I was a kid. One of the first people who really showed me kind of the mysteries of the woods. I grew up the son of a farmer who worked a lot, and he loved the woods, but it just took sort of the old timers to sort of show me the way. This old man, Curtis Torrey, he was a mushroom hunter, loved to go out in the woods and hunt mushrooms. And he told me, when you would come to a log, I was, a little kid, I would want to scamper up on it. He's like, step over logs, don't step on them. And I know that's kind of metaphorical in a lot of ways, but I think he's exactly right. Step over, don't step on. That's my favorite quote. Step over.
Oh, I love, for so many reasons.
So many reasons, right? You can kind of attribute that, or you can kind of project that into so many things in life. Just step over.
Yeah, that's profound. Well, graphic designer here. I'm going to make a meme of that with your name on it / whatever. So, and then you're talking about mushrooms there. So we're going to move right along, because I'm not going to ask what kind of mushroom. But this is so funny, because I'm going to ask you, what's the best trip traveling wise you ever had?
Oh,
I cracked myself up.
So maybe this is justifying your imperative that I start a blog, because there are so many like travel logs and places I want to kind of revisit in my mind. But one of the beautiful parts of my job has been to travel the world from behind a gun and see really the wildest places and some of the more interesting places that are not in any sort of tour guide. That's one of the great things about being an outdoors person, is you see the most beautiful places. So I would say a couple, but one that comes to mind is I actually got, and this is I'm going to take liberties with the term best, because it was also one of the hardest trips. But I went to India, maybe not quite 10 years ago, for a story, and ended up, my ride never came to the New Delhi airport. I had to hire my own driver to drive basically halfway across the country of India. And just the stuff we saw, the just living life in the back roads of India, traveling along, and then staying there and meeting people and realizing the colorfulness of the place, and just the absolute abject poverty and the filth of the place, but also the beauty of the natural world. It's actually one of the most wonderful and sort of eye-opening physically travel experiences of my life.
Oh, well, your smile probably wooed them over, and they loved you just as much. Actually,
my driver's his name was Smiley. And he was one of the happiest people I've ever met, to the degree he's like, when we parted, we were together for days.
Oh, wow.
He's like, when you come back to India, you look me up. We just had that same sort of rapport that you and I have.
I love it. So what books recommendation do you think has impacted your life?
Oh, man, I love books. I absolutely love books, which will surprise no one. There's a book. In fact, I try to buy it for there's two by the same author. These are old books, but I buy them for every new kid in my life, whether it's a niece or a nephew. So the first one's called Paddle to the Sea. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's by a guy named Clarence Holling, or Clarence Hollings. Weird, such a strange name. Go look for it. Google it. Paddle to the Sea. It's the original as a hardbound book, but it's little, like maybe 40 or 60 pages, not a lot. But it's the story. Paddle to the Sea is the story about this Native American in Manitoba who this Indian boy carves a canoe out of wood, and he puts it on a snowbank. And so there's a canoe with an Indian carved into the canoe. This thing's small. Uh-huh. It's a toy, but he puts it on a snowbank, and it's the story of the snow melting and this little canoe going into the waterways that are tributaries of the Great Lakes, and then all through the Great Lakes out to the St. Lawrence River out into the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a travelogue that tells the story of the northern. There you go.
Thank you, Debbie.
It is such a great book, but because it's transportive, and as a young kid, I was that little Indian boy. I just imagined, extrapolating that this Indian kid would never leave his homeland, but through the canoe, he saw all these places. So that's one. The second one is by the same author, and it's called Tree in the Trail.
Tree in the Trail.
And it's the story of this cottonwood tree out on the plains of western Kansas, and everything that tree saw in its lifetime. So it saw the free-ranging buffalo, and then it saw the Indians being removed from the landscape, and then it saw the Santa Fe Trail. It was right along the Santa Fe Trail, and it saw all these changes that were so it's the history of the West told through the life of this tree in the trail. You should check it out.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, this has been so cool. I'm going to recommend everybody at the hotel watch our interview.
Good.
Anyways, so what's the biggest factor that has helped you be successful?
So remember when you asked that first question about regrets or things that I wished I'd done differently, I said
Yes.
lack of confidence and lack of sort of having the conviction that I could do things. The flip side of that coin is that it's kind of that very thing. Like the things that have helped me be successful is to take chances. I moved to Glasgow, as I've mentioned, over 20 years ago, and I have identical twins. At the time, they were less than 1 year old. And I came here for a job working for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And I thought, you know what, this was going to be temporary. I was living in Helena at the time. And we moved here, and I'm so happy that I did that. So I took a chance on this place, and that it like yielded so many great things. I took a chance on thinking that I could write when I really didn't have any training in it, and built a life and a career around something that I just took a chance on. So I think having that willingness to take chances and not do the safe thing, but kind of do the brave thing has always been, I think, a secret to my success. And I think I encourage people to do that. Take chances, go do stuff, to just take risks.
I think that's an introvert's superpower, because we have to force ourselves to take risks and get out of our comfort zone. And I think that's our superpower, because we're surprised that we can do what we can do.
Superpower. I like that.
That's a superpower. So let me ask you this, and we're going to get going here, because you've got a podcast to do, and I respect your time. So we are going to do another show together. There's no doubt about it. We have to. Okay. So what's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done? Be on Lynn's show? No, just kidding.
The most spontaneous thing oh man, there have been a lot of them. There have been so many. Road trips, really just getting in a car and going. From the time I was just able to drive, going on spring break in college, meeting people, finding new places. Like, to me, you achieve escape velocity, I guess is the way I look. And just like, go fishing, go driving, go do something. There's always, I've never, ever moving to Montana. I've never, ever regretted just doing that.
I love that. You know what? You told me there's a hard stop, and I really respect your time. So we're going to pretty much wrap it up here in a minute. It's been just an honor and a pleasure to have you here. And I did this really quick because I didn't know if John's video is going to come, so I'll just play it. Andrew, thank you for being on my show. It's been a great time, and I really appreciate you. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing. Love you.
Kid Lynn, thanks. I appreciate it.
So really, I mean, this is a guy that outdoor life editor for 8 years, editor-in-chief for 8 years, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he lived in Montana, and he traveled to New York City, and I got the chance to known him for the last 10 years. I just love him dearly. It's just really an honor to have you here. I did reach out, so you could tell people that I did reach out on your friends list. No, she was legit. She was interviewing me, because some of them didn't answer me, and that's okay, because danger, stranger danger. But but John took a chance and surprised me. So thank you so much. I can't do what I do without reaching out. Now I go out of my element to reach out and look goofy and ask whoever's willing to, because I think it's very important for people to be honored while they're living. It's always sad to me how beautiful their funerals are and celebrations. And if only those people knew how much of an impact they had on others, it would make a difference in people's lives. And so that's what I'm trying to do here.
Well, you are so good at this. You've got this light, but I think it's funny. I guess I didn't really appreciate that motivation, but I think you're exactly right. You're celebrating people, and yeah, you got a lot to celebrate, kid.
And you do too. And I love you so much. So I've only got 1 second to say goodbye to you guys, and don't leave me a second, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. Share this. This is an amazing guy, and I love you all. Till next time.